I have been waiting a long, long time to present our guest today. And Ken, Hazel Dixon Cooper has been one of our guests previously on the show, but she's been a great friend.
Yes.
And
Very
I tell you, she's a friend to so many people in everything she has done.
Yep.
Now, many people may remember Hazel Dixon Cooper on Cosmo for years. I can even remember when I was in my late teens, grabbing that Cosmopolitan magazine and having to read everything she had to say, because she is the astrologer to the stars. But with that said, what you are going to be talking to us about today is something that is a great concern to so many people.
And sloths.
Yes, say hello.
Zachary wants to be part of this. He heard Hazel was coming on and the topic, and he said, I have to go in. Now, I have to tell you, Zachary did not come in here on his own. He does very little on his own. I had to carry him, but he was very insistent that he would come and take part.
Yeah, he looks like he's gained a little bit of weight, Kim.
He has. Thackeray, it isn't from inactivity because he's always inactive. It's from my wife's good cooking. He has been snacking out a bit. And let's be honest, when you're eating leaves that it's very hard to digest, you don't put on weight. On the other hand, when you're eating chocolate, and good carrots. Oh, I like carrots. And you put on weight. So he heard that Hazel, who's a great friend, was going to talk about healthier eating. And so he wanted to be part of the conversation with you, Hazel.
Yeah, Hazel, could you let everyone know the name of your book?
Yes, I have it right here.
Oh,
it's
good.
Confessions of a Fat Cosmo Girl, How I Lost 122 Pounds and Kept It Off, and How You Can Too. And it just came out on January 26th, and I'm very, very happy to have it out because it was a few years in coming, as I struggled with my own weight issues for decades.
Mm-hmm.
My doctor has been telling me how important it is to focus on vegetables, fruit, and low protein.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people have all that backwards. They're going for the meats, the red meats, and the breads that are bad for them. And I love that you, especially on your website, your blog, you go into detail and you show people where they can get help. Not only from your book, but also websites that can help them. You must have done a lot of research.
I did do a lot of research for the book, and I got my weight off by trial and error. And the thing that finally dawned on me, other than I had about 4 health issues all pop up within 6 months of each other, and they were all worrisome, but they weren't, life-threatening at that time, that got me back on the track of, okay, you're getting older, you've got to get the weight off, you got to keep it off, if otherwise you're going to be sick or dead or, not in a pleasant state. Let's put it that way.
Especially for your heart.
That's right, for my heart, because heart disease, and I say this in the book, heart disease runs in both sides of my family. And so I was at the worst, I don't know if you can see my before and after pictures there, but at my worst, at the bottom, I weighed 277 pounds. And that was taken when I was 66 years old. The after picture right here, it's glaring. But the after picture is I was 72.
Mhm.
And you can change your life and help yourself at any age. And that's what adult obesity is, what I focus on in the book. 30 years, 40 years, 50, 60s. You know, people start giving up when they're older. Women I talk to all the time, and men too, but especially women. They're under so much stress, and they'll say, I'm just this way. I can't lose the weight. I might as well just, they email me all the time, and the things they talk about is I can't lose it. It comes back no matter what I do. I'm ashamed of myself. I feel guilty. All of that is part of the issue, of course. But the biggest thing, and the thing that I found that helped me and helps other people when I talk to them and they realize this, is that we know it, but we don't know it logically. I mean, we know it logically, but we don't know it inside, is that the weight loss industry, that we pay billions of $85 billion a year in this country alone to get us, lose weight, does nothing to help you keep it off permanently. Does nothing to do that. They thrive on your repeat business.
If you keep it off permanently, then you don't need to keep going back to them.
They would go out of business.
But I have to ask you a question, Hazel. You're getting a lot of these calls and emails that are from people who are saying, I can't do it. Why are they contacting you? Are they looking for one last ray of hope?
They're looking for somebody. I think when my book came out, and when I was in, after I lost my weight, I was in Forks Over Knives magazine. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a national food magazine. It comes out quarterly. And they also have a website. If anybody wants to go, forksovernknives.com. They have wonderful plant-based recipes. And I lost the last of my weight going to a completely plant-based diet, cutting out meat, dairy products. That's all I eat now. And I mentioned that in the book. I understand that a lot of people aren't ready for that big step yet. But Monica, as you said earlier, the doctor, vegetables, fruits, our doctors are learning too that meat isn't always good for you. And if you think about it, the protein, people, the first thing I get asked is on a plant-based diet, well, where do you get your protein? Well, where do you think the cows get their protein? They don't get it from other cows. They get it from the grasses and the grains that they eat.
Well,
that's where people
in a different way than we do.
They do.
But there are veg fruit plants that do have more protein. There are plants that do have more, but I take it then you've become a vegan eater or a vegetarian?
Yes, I'm totally vegan now, totally plant-based, and I have been for about 3 years. And I can tell you, I've never felt better in my life.
Okay, now
Never.
Big question.
Yes.
Do you eat mushrooms?
Mushrooms? I love mushrooms.
Okay, because mushrooms, I was just reading about them today. They're not plants. They're also
mushrooms are a fungi, and
their own family.
Yeah, but they're not meat either, and they're excellent. They're very good for you. And people either love them or hate them, is what I found out. And I'm one of the people that love them in all kinds of forms.
I am too. I love mushrooms.
I find that mushrooms take on a flavor of what you add to them.
They do. And also, if you get a big portobello mushroom cap, the big ones in the grocery store, and you brown that in just a tiny bit. I mean, I don't use a lot of oil either, but that's for me in my diet because of my heart condition. I mean, it's just I can eat it, but I don't go overboard with olive oil and oils. I spray it, brown that, put some, I put basil on it, maybe a little red wine on it, and simmer it, and put that on a toasted hamburger bun with lettuce and tomato and avocado, and you have a burger that it will just knock your socks off. It's delicious.
But I want to go back to something you said, because while that is true of the mushrooms that you get in the grocery store, which are all by the same, they sell them under different names, but the ones in the grocery store are basically all the smaller ones are baby.
Right.
It's all the same group. But there are other mushrooms, and they do have different flavors. For example, if you live in the mountains, here in Arizona, up in the Flag area, there's a season for lobster mushrooms, and they are just a wonderful, wonderful tasting food.
Oh yeah, they're wonderful. There are all kinds of different flavors. I would not attempt to pick a mushroom in the wild myself because I don't know the differences at all. But I know they're beautiful and all kinds of different varieties, and I've tried several just from the grocery store.
There are hundreds that are edible, and there are thousands that are not. You know, in France, every town, every village has its a designated mushroom person who is the expert, because
I've heard that.
because
I've heard
they
that.
forage for mushrooms constantly there. I mean, it's basic to French food.
Sure.
And if you could poison everybody very quickly. But anyway,
Excuse me.
Hazel, what would you say to people who don't have a lot of money? Because it seems like the vegetables and like the almond milks and these type of the breads are twice as much as they used to be.
Actually, that is a little bit of a misconception.
Okay.
Because people that may think they don't have a lot of money to spend, I tell everybody, look at what you're eating. If you're going to fast food, you're driving pickup food on the way home from work, you know, if you're still working, or if you're going out and you're eating meat, you're buying meat in the grocery store, you're buying prepared foods in the grocery store. You compare that with buying beans. Beans are still really cheap. Lentils, all kinds of different beans and legumes you can buy, pastas that you can buy, and fresh vegetables. You will see, actually saw a drop in my grocery bill when I quit dairy, and like a brick of cheese now is probably $7 for a little, you know,
Yeah.
where I live. And
those are very expensive things.
meat is very expensive. So if you actually do the budgeting, going to plant-based, and I think when you say plant-based, people think organic, and that's good too. That's just another layer of help for you, because organic foods are raised with much less pesticide and chemicals, you know, on them. They are a little bit more expensive, but even if you buy organic, which I do whenever I can, or all the time when they're available, you will probably drop your bill, especially when you cut out junk food and fast food.
Yeah.
Because those two things, and sodas. If I was going to tell anybody today, the one thing to drop from your life right this moment is anything but coffee, tea, and water. Water from the tap, filtered water. That's it. Sodas and bottled sports drinks and flavored drinks, flavored waters that you buy in the grocery store do absolutely nothing to help your body. And most of it is filled with toxins because it's chemically flavored.
Yeah.
Even diet soda has, regular soda has so much sugar in it that you're getting with one one Coke or one Pepsi or one Mountain Dew, whatever you drink, you're getting a day's full of sugar in that one can or bottle. And the diet stuff with the diet sugars in it and the artificial sweeteners aren't any better. You can drink a can of diet soda one every day for a year, and just that alone, with no other changes, will add 6 or 7 pounds to your weight.
Yeah. By the
And
way,
they're terrible for you. They're linked with all kinds of cancers, heart disease, diabetes, gastrointestinal issues, everything. It's awful. And I say that in my book, and I also provide websites and links and references in the back for people to, I go over that really carefully in the book, because soda is one of the worst things you can possibly buy to eat.
Thackeray doesn't drink any soda. He only drinks water.
Good for him.
But he wonders about how much money people spend to buy bottled water when in reality, most of the time, all they're getting is local tap water.
Exactly.
Bottle.
Yeah, even your fancy waters are just, you know, filtered water from a spring or filtered water, and they're nice, they're good. But if you get a filter for your tap at home, you know, just like a pure filter, they're like $30 or something, and put it on there, filter your water. Most refrigerators now that have water dispensers also have filters in it to filter the water. If you want it flavored, cut a wedge of lemon and squeeze in it, or some lime, or a little bit of orange juice, or grapefruit. If you can have grapefruit, do that. You know, drink teas, drink flavored teas.
Mention those fruits, because of course one of the things that people eat take a lot of, thinking it's healthy, and it's really very counterproductive, is drinking fruit juice as opposed to eating fruit.
You're exactly right, Ken.
Juice, getting a lot of the fructose and the flavor, of course, but what you're not getting is all that wonderful fiber, the minerals.
Right. Drink one orange, and one orange is about 60, 70 calories, and you get the fiber, you get the juice, you get everything that's good. But when you think about a bottle of orange juice or a glass of orange juice that you squeeze yourself, you're squeezing 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 oranges to make that 6 or 8 ounces of juice. So you're getting 300 or 400 calories, and it's sugar. It's normal. It's, you know, it's natural sugar, but it's still way too much for your body. Eat an orange, you know, eat the orange. Don't buy bottled orange juice.
The other thing is that you then, after you've squeezed those oranges, you're throwing out a lot of that pulp and fiber.
Exactly.
And really good for your stomach.
It is. It's good for you. All of our immunity system, even with COVID the last year that we've been fighting, obese people have a higher incidence of severe illness and also death when they're overweight if they get COVID. And one of those reasons is that your whole immunity system begins in your gut. Your gut is a marvelous biome of millions, billions of different kinds of bacteria that help you clean toxins out of your body, get the nourishment out of the food you eat or not. That's also one reason why people say when they're on a diet, they don't eat a lot of they're not eating a lot of food, but they're not eating the right food for their body. So what they're doing is they're eating a prepared or a frozen dinner, or they're eating like a frozen lasagna or something like that, or they're eating something, you know, one little hamburger patty a day, or one bag of French fries a day, or something, anything that they're eating that isn't good for them. Your body is fighting the toxin, especially from prepared foods that have so many preservatives and chemicals and additives and phony colors and phony flavors in them, that your body is cleaning itself, is fighting that toxin to get those things out of itself, that it's still starving for nourishment to nourish it. Well, and it's not only nourishing your body, this is also fighting in your brain, is not getting the nourishment it needs, so your thinking can get muddled, or you can get tired.
All the time, Hazel, but let's go back and talk a little about that gut biome that you mentioned, because I was wondering, I personally, I don't know about you, but I personally take a probiotic usually about 3 times a week. Okay, you want to talk a little about probiotics?
Probiotics, I think, are fine. I don't take them personally. I know people that do and swear by them. I know that there are there's some controversy, not because of that there's anything harmful in them. I think they're fine, but is that most people don't get enough of what they need, or the variety of probiotic they need in the over-the-counter things that you can buy, you know, at the grocery store or the pharmacy. But they're certainly not harmful as far as I know. I'm not an expert on those at all.
What happened originally was, of course, people realized that when they took antibiotics, they were then having trouble with their digestion.
Yes.
And that was because they were killing all of those gut bacteria.
Kills good. Yeah, antibiotics kill everything, good and bad.
Okay, so then they said, well, there were certain things that seemed to work. And one of the things that work is unpasteurized yogurt, Greek yogurt, traditional yogurt, because it has all of those naturally occurring bacteria in it.
Right.
And you know, folks, in a sense, we're getting right back to the subject of mushrooms here, because we're talking about things that exist in the environment. Okay, now, then they developed something called acidophilus, which was supposed to counteract antibiotics.
Yes.
It's okay, it helps. Now people got into the really looking at it, and as you mentioned, Hazel, it has to do with the quality. And here we get right back into the money saving. What is real money saving? If you buy an over-the-counter probiotic that is not refrigerated and is not swapped out regularly, doesn't have a use-by date on it, then you're really spending your money poorly. It's like saying, oh, well, I'll get my calories by, you know, I'll drink a soda, I'll eat a candy bar to get my energy. It's just a foolish way. You're wasting your money because you're not getting quality. So what you really want to do, folks, is, I'm not going to give a brand recommendation, but I am going to say, go to a good place where they do a lot of natural and organic food, look in the refrigerator section and find your probiotics that way, keep them refrigerated, and you're going to get a much better quality product.
That's right. That's right.
The
That's
better
good.
product in this case is pooping better, right? And that's important. You know, sloths only poop once a week. So for Thackeray, that day is
actually, it really helps you. And also plant-based, just plant-based dieting alone, eating a plant-based diet, and alone will also help a lot of those gut issues with excess flatulence, where you're bloated, where you feel you're not feeling good after you eat a meal filled with dairy products and meat products. Because it's hard for your body to digest those kinds of foods, and especially if that's all, especially if you're eating that all, you know, at every meal or every other meal or most of the time, you have a diet that's heavy in that. It's good. You know, it's not, you know, I can attest from when I was heavy and eating everything like that and having a lot of stomach issues in that very way, constipation, diarrhea, whatever. Plant-based, I don't have that anymore. I don't have that anymore.
You raised a very interesting point about flatulence. You know, like one of the problems in our environment, of course, is the huge amount of methane that our cattle, our bovine friends, are putting out.
Yes.
That's really one of the major sources of climate change, is farm related.
It is.
A lot of different ways, but one of the
right. That's another reason to go to plant-based, because you know what it takes to raise one cow, you could feed 100 people on plant-based foods.
A cow very naturally eats grass and then farts. Okay? Farting is not in and of itself a bad thing. But,
no, and that's not, I was saying that. I was saying the reason, the digestion of meat and the digestion of dairy products, cheeses, and those kind of things they affect a human digestive system until where we can feel, at least I did and especially when I was overweight, that and sugar, you know, eating products with sugar in it, which is everything. That's another thing I say in the book. Those things affect your stomach. When you are on a plant-based diet, you don't get as many or hardly any of that kind of discomfort.
Yeah, I would agree, but I would also add, if you find that you are too flatulent, it's not to have some flatulence. We all do it. I know, sure. I know all of us and when we were young and courting, we desperately to not. But reality is we all are.
Yes.
And it's healthy too. But if you find that you're fighting excessively, it's probably because your diet isn't balanced enough. You see, in a really well-balanced diet, things work together. For example, my favorite example is beans. And we all know, beans, the musical fruits.
Sure.
The reality is that if you eat a Mexican diet where they balance beans and rice, so they're getting complete protein from it.
Mm-hmm. And that's what a plant-based diet does. That's why I feel, much better. Also with beans, if you're cooking your beans from dried beans, what I do, and it takes a lot of that gas out of the beans, is I put them in the water, and instead of soaking them overnight, which you can do, but a lot of times I don't like to do that. Or I think, I get up in the morning thinking, I want bean soup today or something. I don't pre-plan, the night before. I cover them with water, bring it to a boil, drain it, cover it with water again, and bring it up to a boil, and then cook them that way. Because that first boiling, let them just bring it up to a boil, let them boil for a couple of minutes, and then drain that water off. Also helps drain a lot of the excess chemical out of them that causes gas, which is good. But Monica, I think you said that I could read a couple of pages out of my book.
Please
I just marked some things in my first chapter, and about when I first got the call from my publicist at Simon & Schuster for my astrology books, which is what we talked about before a long time ago when I talked to you, that Cosmo was interested in a new astrologer, and how I reacted then, because I was already about 50 pounds overweight at that time. And this is chapter 1. It's called The Elephant in the Room. Hi, Hazel. I have an exciting lead. Cosmo is scouting out a new astrologer for the magazine. Are you interested? Let me know when you can. The email from my publicist at Simon & Schuster appeared on my office computer, and for a moment I froze. The news both thrilled and terrified me. At 50 pounds overweight, I was the anti-Cosmo girl, and at that instant, I would have given anything to be thin. As soon as that thought hit my brain, I panicked, as I'd always done so many times before, and flipped off the computer screen and headed for the company cafeteria. The regular Hazel, the overweight server behind the counter, asked, Yes. I was glad she was on duty because I knew I would get bigger portions if someone my size dished them out. She placed a huge apple fritter on my plate and handed it to me. I couldn't wait to dig in. Then I got a cup of coffee with cream and sugar. Under any kind of stress, I automatically reached for something to eat, like a drunk reaches for one more drink. Staring me right in my puffy cheeks was a chance to write the most well-known astrology column for the most successful woman's magazine on the planet. What did I do? Rush for the worst thing I could eat, as always. Cosmo hired me the Monday before Thanksgiving. Although the negative voice in my head began to mumble in the back of my mind, I shut her up with one of every overweight person's go-to excuses. I deserve to celebrate. So instead of jumping off the fat wagon, I fell face first into the mindless pig out of a holiday binge. And then I go on to tell through the holidays. And my friends had been thrilled for me. They had also helped me fail. Eat Haze. You can start your diet on Monday morning. Of course, I agreed. I had had much to celebrate and deserved every bite. Best of all, Monday was 4 days away. By bedtime, I had rationalized that I really hadn't eaten that much. The next morning, I awoke bloated and sluggish. My head ached, and I had a food hangover and looked like hell. The self-defeating noise in my brain, on the other hand, was having a field day. How could you be so damn stupid? You're such a loser. She blasted me with every nasty name in the book of self-criticism.
Of course, the way to turn off the self-criticism is a cup of ice cream.
Yeah. Like a drunk in a blackout, I hadn't a clue how much food I'd shoved in my face over the holidays. When I reluctantly stepped on the scales at the end of the year, I gained almost 15 pounds. Even when handed the opportunity of my dreams, I was still destroying myself and my life with food. Writing for Cosmo hadn't thrilled me or shamed me enough to stop overeating. Instead of acknowledging the elephant in the room, I had become the elephant.
That is so many people can relate to that.
I think all of us can relate. Those of us who are lucky enough not to have it be food, we all have something. There's something.
Sure.
We all
Everybody.
have some way that we deal that is counterproductive, that we deal with anxiety. For some people, it could be just the opposite. It could be running.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I addressed that in the book, in the chapter that I call This Voice in Your Head. I call her Inner Bitch.
It is.
And she is the one, that's the voice that tells you, you're stupid, you're a loser, you can't do anything, you're ugly, you're fat, you're too fat, you're too thin, whatever. You're not good. And that voice is, that's the voice you have to fight before you can, that's one of the steps you have to take before you can get to the place where you can change and change permanently. And so I do it, just tell her to get lost. There are exercises in the book that tell you how to talk to that negative voice. You may find out who that negative voice is. It's usually something from your childhood, from your past. Could be a parent, could be a caregiver, could be a best friend, could be, anything. And there's a key to also separating that voice from who you are, because when the voice is telling you are not good, you are too fat, you are too stupid, whatever it says to you, that is not your voice, because you're not talking to yourself as you. That's something else. That's the negative thing in your head. That's that other person in there. You say, I'm okay. You don't get up in the morning and say, I am. Most people say you are dumb, you're stupid, how could you do such a stupid thing? Oh, you drop something or you break it. Oh, stupid. So talk to yourself with I'm a good person. I am not stupid. Yes, I did eat the wrong thing today, but I will be better tomorrow or at my next meal, or I won't do that again. And you talk back to this thing, even if you have to shout at it, and I have shouted at it, I've cussed at it and used, some of the big cuss words that I don't put in my book, but everybody knows, get away from me, get off my back. That's not me. That's not who I am. And you're not going to destroy me. But people have that, we all have that negative thing in our head. And I say in my book, and it's a hashtag I use on my website or on my Facebook page, change begins in your head, not on your plate. And as soon as
you introduce behavioral therapy, tip of Thackeray in my hat to you for going into that area. You've been explaining it very well. And, I think you just got a good reason to go to Amazon and order, or Barnes & Noble, or your local bookstore if you're lucky enough to have one, and order a copy of Hazel Dixon Cooper's book. And Hazel, would you hold your copy up again and tell people the title?
Sure. It's Confessions of a Fat Cosmo Girl, How I Lost 122 Pounds and Kept It Off, and How You Can Too. And you can do it. You really can do it. And you need support. You can't do it alone. You need support. That's what I'm here for. I will happily talk to anybody. They can email me through my website, hazeldixoncooper.com. You can follow me on Facebook. My Twitter account is active. I'm working on my Twitter account right now. So Facebook and my website are the best ways to get in touch with me. And I answer every email.
We'll have all that information down below also. So everybody can just click on the links and get to those. One thing I wanted to say, you don't have to go into this full board vegan. You can do it gradually.
Yes.
Maybe substitute chicken, turkey, fish.
Yes.
For
I'm
meat.
glad you brought that up, Monica, because that's exactly what I did. The first thing I cut out was beef. And then I cut out, I wasn't a big fish eater to begin with, but I cut out fish, but and then chicken and cheese were the last two things I gave up, because
Right.
those were the things I liked the best. And those were hard for me to give up. And I still ate that when I was like 95, 98% plant-based.
Mhm.
But anything you do will help, and it'll get you started in the right direction.
That's exactly right. If I was going to give some advice, I would say you can cut out the sodas, the bottled waters, everything for what we talked about before, and go online. You know, Google is the source of everything. It's how I learned a lot of the things that I know. Find out just how bad that stuff is for your body in general, not just, you know, sodas. When you drink a soda and then you want another one and then you want another one, it's like, oh God, I just love this. No, you don't love it. You love the sugar and you love the salt they put in it. They put sodium in it, so it makes you thirsty for more. You know, you'll get that when you drink a glass of water or some tea or some coffee. And the second thing I would tell you to do, and I have this in the book as well, read the labels on every pre-packaged, pre-prepared, processed food that you think you want to eat. Read the label. Read the ingredients. You'll be surprised at how much sugar.
If you can't pronounce what's in there, you probably don't want it in your body.
That's exactly right. And you want to look at the first 5 ingredients.
Mhm.
And you can see, you can pick out, you can go to the store and probably get any kind of cereal that you want, that's your favorite cereal, and at least 3 and probably 4 of those 5 ingredients is going to be some sort of sugar. And that's what you're eating.
Names to try to hide it.
That's right. They change it. They write all of these different, anything that begins with OSE has a sugar base to it. And for children, and I bring this up in the book too. I have a chapter on our kids that we're killing our children with these diets that, I mean, with the food that we eat now in the food industry, and the sugar is, they have found links to hyperactivity, ADHD, OCD, with children's diets, because they're fed like 10 times the sugar that they should have in a day. They eat it every day, and it affects their brains and their bodies.
Just to make things worse, if you study up on baby food, the stuff we're giving out to little ones, it's full of heavy metals.
Yes.
And that is like,
I just read an article on that the other day. It is. There are heavy metals in baby food, and that's becoming a concern now, those processed prepared foods. And believe me, if most people have a blender or a food processor now in their kitchen, you can make your own baby food in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just like when you make your own food and you feed them the same thing you eat, which is what people did 100 years ago or 50 years ago.
Yep.
You know, or 60 years ago.
Advice too about food, because he's figured out one of his things, which is that if it is something that when you eat it, you're craving more, it probably isn't good for you.
That's exactly right. It's the sugar and salt craving, and that's what the Weight Watchers industry, Weight Watchers and Nutrisystems, and I blast all these guys in the book too, because this is how they keep us coming back. They say, eat anything you want and lose weight. Well, sure, I could eat, 3 Snickers bars a day, and as long as I was under the calorie intake for my size, my age, and my mobility, I'd lose weight. Does that teach me how to eat properly? No. Does that save me from a sugar addiction? No. And they don't either.
Yeah, it's not good for you.
But it isn't just. It isn't.
they feed you this stuff, and it's not good for you. They say you can. Weight Watchers now, that calls itself WW, has come out with, what is it now, 400 food that you can eat, or 200 foods that you can eat that are point free. And they say, well, just take it easy. Just let your appetite be your guide. It's like, well, huh? I say in the chair, in the book, let my appetite be my guide. My appetite led me to having an ass that was the size of a chair and a half.
Yeah.
I can't control that. And so their philosophies aren't any better. Short term, yes, you can drop the weight. And I did it many, many times to the tune of many, many thousands of dollars just poured down a rat hole, because I wasn't learning how to eat properly, how to eat the right food, how to cut out these processed foods, how to cut out these frozen dinners. And none of the weight loss industry helps you with that. None of it.
Folks, we've had a wonderful time today chatting with
I've loved being here. Thank you so much for having me. So good to see you two again.
Hazel, you're welcome back anytime.
Remind people of the title of your book.
Confessions of a Fat Cosmo Girl: How I Lost 122 Pounds and Kept It Off, and How You Can Too. And if anybody wants to email me, I'm happy to talk to anybody. I'm happy to help anybody in any way I can, point you to places where you can research things, research them for you. And just because this is my mission, it's something I've always wanted to do, is to help other men too, especially, but women especially, because women have so much stress and so much burden, and they're often put themselves at the bottom of the pole every time, while everything else takes precedent over them. And so this is my mission now, to give back, and this is how I'm doing it.
Well, thank you very much for sharing it. And for sharing your passion, which of course is one of the reasons that Monica and I love you so much, is that you are so passionate
I love you too.
The world you live in and the people that you touch.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm ready to go. I'm ready to empty my refrigerator right now. Good.
Get that trash bag out.
Stop recording and let's get that to those
Thanks a lot, Hazel.
Bye-bye. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Bye-bye, folks.
Today I'm showing you how to make the best nut-free vegan cheese sauce. Not only is it vegan and nut-free, it's also oil-free and paleo, so everybody can enjoy it. First, I'll show you how to make the cheese sauce, and then how to use it in 3 different recipes. First, a buffalo jackfruit grilled cheese, followed by a simple creamy cheesy pasta, and finally a Tempeh Tex-Mex quesadilla. And be sure to stick around until the end of the video, because I'm sharing 2 super useful cooking tips. 1, how to get crispy, never soggy quesadillas, and 2, the quickest, easiest way to make tempeh not taste bitter. This cheese sauce begins with wholesome vegetables. First, cauliflower, which is going to bring some creaminess without requiring any nuts, and butternut squash, which will yield that beautiful golden yellow color that we associate with cheese. You'll cut the cauliflower into florets and use about 4 heaping cups. That's the amount in about 1 medium head, but if you have leftover florets, you can dip them in hummus for a snack, or blanch them and freeze them for smoothies later on. Butternut squash can take some time to peel and chop, so when I'm short on time, I opt for the pre-cut squash. I'm using my Instant Pot to steam the vegetables for just 4 minutes, but you can easily do this on the stove. I have complete instructions for both cooking methods in the blog post, which is linked below. While the veggies are cooking, you'll saute some garlic, and to keep the recipe oil-free, simply saute the garlic in water, but be sure to use a good nonstick pan and stir frequently to prevent the garlic from sticking. If you don't mind oil, you can saute it in olive oil or avocado oil. Once the cauliflower and butternut squash are done cooking, transfer them to a blender along with about 1.5 cups of the cooking broth, and to the blender, you'll add the sauteed garlic, a generous amount of nutritional yeast for that cheesy flavor, a few spices and salt, and a bit of canned coconut milk for creaminess. Blend it up until the sauce is thick and smooth. I am so excited to share this buffalo jackfruit grilled cheese with you because it is smoky and spicy and cheesy and hearty, and in my opinion, that's all you need for an indulgent sandwich, and I think you're gonna love it. You're gonna start with one 20-ounce can of jackfruit pieces, and you'll shred it up until it looks like shredded meat. Then heat up a skillet with just a tiny bit of oil, you don't need much, and add the jackfruit for a few minutes until it starts to get browned around the edges. While the jackfruit is cooking, you'll make the buffalo sauce by melting some vegan butter or coconut oil in a saucepan. Then add some buffalo hot sauce, spices and salt, and a bit of maple syrup to balance the smoky spiciness. Bring it to a simmer and then pour the buffalo sauce over the jackfruit. Stir to combine everything and add a bit of water to thin out the sauce. You'll cook the jackfruit mixture for about 15 minutes or until the liquid has evaporated. To assemble the grilled cheese sandwiches, you'll want to drizzle just a tiny bit of oil on both sides of your sliced bread. Add a few spoons of the vegan cheese sauce to the bread, followed by a generous helping of the buffalo jackfruit, a bit of blanched or sauteed spinach. Finish with a few more spoons of cheese and cook each sandwich in a hot skillet for about 2 minutes per side, making sure to press down on both sides with a spatula so your toast gets nice and browned. If you've been looking for a nut-free vegan mac and cheese, this is the recipe for you. Super simple. I'm using rigatoni, but of course macaroni shells or any kind of pasta will work. For this cheesy pasta, all you really need to do is bring a large pot of salted water to boil and cook the pasta of your choice until al dente. Then either drain the cooking water and add the sauce, or use a slotted spoon to transfer the pasta to a pan and add the vegan cheese sauce on top, tossing to coat and warming everything through. Unlike your standard cheese quesadilla, these Tex-Mex tempeh quesadillas are a full, balanced meal. Got the protein-rich tempeh, a veggie-packed cheese sauce, some antioxidant-rich mushrooms. Of course, you can throw some greens in there if you like, and as always, you can use a whole grain tortilla, a grain-free tortilla, whatever you fancy. To start on these quesadillas, I'm dicing up a jalapeno pepper along with garlic and sliced onions and mushrooms. Normally, I recommend steaming tempeh before further cooking it to remove the characteristic bitterness in tempeh, but I find that finely grating tempeh actually breaks down the proteins and integrates the tempeh into the other flavors, so you don't actually need to steam it. Next, you'll heat up a large, deep skillet and saute some sliced onions. Once they start to soften, you'll add the garlic and jalapeno, followed by the mushrooms, tempeh, and the Tex-Mex seasoning. Cook until the mushrooms are beginning to brown, but wait until the last minute of cooking to add the salt to ensure the mushrooms do not release too much moisture. Then you'll add in some tomato paste for a concentrated tomatoey umami flavor and lime juice for a pop of freshness and acidity. To assemble the quesadillas, spread out some of the vegan cheese on a large tortilla, followed by the Tex-Mex mushroom tempeh filling, and a bit more of the cheese sauce, followed by another tortilla. And here's the key part. When you add the quesadilla to your skillet, add a smaller skillet on top of the quesadilla. This helps continuously press down on the quesadillas so you get a crispy brown exterior instead of a soggy, wilted quesadilla. If you're a fan of quesadillas, you're going to love my simple 5-ingredient chickpea sweet potato quesadillas, which are coming up right after this.